Hello and welcome to another episode of Apple with the Doc. Today, I'll be talking about a few new articles that have been popping up. One of them, there could be another super opioid for those who can't completely get an effect with fentanyl. So let's get started. So for our first bit of news, for all of you druggies out there who want something higher than fentanyl, or if you're a cancer patient and can't really take morphine, there's a new drug out for you. It's called Desuvia. And now you may be thinking to yourself, a drug that's stronger than fentanyl? Are we having an opioid crisis? Are there untold numbers of Americans in small cities, small towns, shooting up heroin because they can't get opioids, lines at pain clinics, doctors being shot for not giving out opioids? Yeah, that's happened. Doctors have been shot and killed for not prescribing someone their pain pills. That's how bad it's gotten. And so you have morphine, and you can jump up to fentanyl, which I believe is about 100 times stronger, has a higher efficacy for pain relief onto the mu receptors and a few other receptors, I believe, as well, within the brainstem. But now there's a new drug called Desuvia from AxleRx Pharmaceuticals. So another player to the game. And they're proposing that this pill only goes towards hospital stays. And so if you're in the hospital and need a really bad painkiller, or in really bad pain, need a painkiller, you can always use this thing. And so an article from Healthline tells you about how it's 5 to 10 times stronger than fentanyl, 1,000 times more potent than morphine. And its generic name is Fentanyl. Sorry, but these drug names are really difficult. In med school, it was really hard to learn some of these drugs because the medications were just crazy. Some of these are like 20 characters long. You're like, how am I supposed to remember this? Like some of the ADHD meds, like lisdextromethorphan. Man, some of these things are a bit annoying. They make it hard just for you. But it's not something new, the generic version of this. But the company's claiming that this formulary is a lot better than using for an IV use. I don't know how. The pill, this comes in a pill form. My experience, IVs tend to be like the best route. It's the direct route. You have 100% bioavailability compared to an oral solution. A lot of things don't have 100% oral viability. And so, given that this public health crisis about opioids, the company states that this could actually save a lot of people from that, which is questionable. The problem with opioid crisis is that they're addicted to opioids. They're addicted to heroin, and they just want some pain relief. So I'm not really sure how this can help. But the FDA, a special committee within the FDA, the FDA's Anesthetic and Analgesic Drug Products Advisory Committee, voted to approve the drug from 10 to 3. Call me Alex Jones, but this is a little fishy. Why would you approve something so strong when you have the head of the FDA trying to push for regulating websites that sell opioids from foreign markets? You have concerns about naloxone, trying to figure out new ways of administering the reversal agent for opioids. And so that's pretty concerning. But it was approved in a 10 to 3 vote. And the concern for the 3 were you're just changing hands of who's actually taking the opioids, whether the person's taking themselves or the hospital's giving in. Maybe the hospitals get a benefit from giving the meds instead of the person take their own meds. And the hospital can always charge the insurance company more. And so this Healthline article actually did a good job and asked experts, other physicians, to see what they thought. And so they asked people from the pain clinics to recovery clinics and see what they thought. One of them was a Dr. Andrew King, who is a professor at a Detroit Medical Center and a medical toxicologist fellowship director, who noted that the misuse and the diversion and leading to death was right on. It just goes into like how all these experts keep on saying that it's a bad drug. I'm glad they brought in an anesthesiologist to weigh in a little bit about that too, because some of these pain docs are anesthesiologists. And so if you're trying to treat suppose you're going in for surgery to have your gallbladder removed. One of the things that the surgeon would do is give you something called narcos or Tylenol T3 or something along those lines that's an opioid base, and they'll only give it to you for a week. And let's say if you're going for like a knee surgery, I also believe they give you some narcos or something a little bit higher in potency. The name escapes me right now, but they'll give it to you. And it's like an opioid base, a narcotic base, in order to help with the pain relief. And it's only a week's worth, and that's it. Some patients actually save these. They'll deal with the pain and save these for like a fun time a little bit later. And I've seen patients come back and ask for more, and the doctor straight up says no. And they'll probably go around to another doctor and ask for pain pills. Another thing is that people who also have chronic pain, for like knee pains, what they used to do was Medicare, I believe it was, the patients, if the patient didn't say they had complete pain relief, they wouldn't pay the doctor as well, saying that the doctor didn't do a good job. That's one of the concerns that some people had. They thought that brought up to the opioid epidemic. The other thing was, still on that. So a lot of these people got addicted to opioids pretty early on, and they were taking these huge doses, and that's where you get fentanyl in, and I guess the need for this drug as well now, the Desuvia, I believe it's called, and it's the FDA's hasn't completely approved it. It's still in the process. Just the advisory committee has approved it. So I believe in November 5th they'll weigh in on this. So it's kind of concerning. The other thing to note is that cancer patients, they also take pain pills. So if you think about that one South Park episode where Randy Marsh is trying to get weed from the dispensary, but you need a medical card at that time in Colorado. So he gets testicular cancer in order to get medical weed. The same thing could be said for opioids as well. I've seen oncologists just like, this guy's in pain, we need to treat his pain because the pain can actually make his cancer worse. That's like shorthand way of saying that a person's stress levels are not conducive to cancer treatment. So they would prescribe these medications, and I assume in rare cases that require large amounts of opioids, they would use fentanyl. So that's where that comes in. But this is kind of concerning how they're prescribing another drug that's really high in potency. And speaking of high, there seems to be an increase in problems with high on a highway. I'm still working on my cannabis podcast where I dive into Canada and cannabis. And you'll see why I don't like cannabis that much. This is probably alluding to that. But this article from Science Daily, goes into a article that's written in the Journal of Drug Policy and Analysis how it's difficult to test someone who is driving underneath the influence of marijuana, because you can take a spit sample as I'm spitting into this mic, or while they're driving, you could take a spit sample and see about recent use. However, this isn't as accurate. If you've ever been pulled over for a DUI, they'll ask you to breathe in a breathalyzer, and you can pretty quickly tell how much alcohol that person's had to a reasonable degree. The other thing is that if you're just taking like the THC, like oils, or if you're just popping in a few gummy bears or eating a pot brownie, this is not always the case. So in order to get an accurate or near accurate reading of the THC level you have, or even to make a policy similar to alcohol, the alcohol limit for driving, it's really difficult. So you have to get a blood sample. In order to get this blood sample, you need to stick a needle into someone's arm. If they're a heroin addict who needs Desuvia, maybe they can do it for you. But other than that, you'll need like a phlebotomist on hand in order to do that for you. And so research is still underway. It's the concerns that the person gets in a car accident, is marijuana at fault. And so while they have testing that's done on marijuana and its driving capabilities, it's still in its preliminary stages. There isn't an extensive amount of testing or anything like that. And so, but a few things actually are certain. So stoned driving can add to accident risk, especially in combination with alcohol and other drugs. It's important to note that some people don't use marijuana alone. They also use it with alcohol. You can also have laced marijuana if you're buying third hand with other toxicants such as like PCP, cocaine. I've had a few hospital admissions because of that. The weed's been cut with something. And so a lot of things have to be still fleshed out. Recently, Canada also legalized marijuana, so that also has to be fleshed out, whether or not what sort of laws they have for driving under influence. And for that information, tune in for that cannabis podcast that I'm currently working on, and it will be out soon. But thank you for listening for this podcast. If you have any topics that you want me to go into in deep or learn more about, you can always email me at msnwpodcast@gmail.com. You can send me requests from there, or you can tell me how bad I am. Either way. But thank you for listening.